Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to review What Happens in the Dark, which is a Tubi original movie. I would like to start this review off by talking about some of the characters in the movie and also show photos of those characters so that you all know what they look like. I would like to start with Trevor, who is played by Hakeem. Trevor is the lead character in the movie. Ava, who is played by Adriana, is the secondary lead and is also Trevor's wife. Kelly, who is played by Lexi, is one of Trevor's co-workers, and Manny, who is played by Alvin Fraser, is a person that you definitely do not want to run into. You definitely don't want to have a problem with, to say the least. I will discuss the other characters throughout my review, but I just wanted to point them out because they are very important to the movie. So the movie actually starts off with Trevor. He's laying on his back inside of what appears to be a box. He's looking very confused, concerned, unsure, and helpless. We then hear a voice say, "What happens in the dark comes to light." Then the movie flashes back 2 months earlier, and we see Ava in the kitchen cooking breakfast for Trevor and herself, while Trevor gets ready for work. Trevor comes into the kitchen and they sit down to eat. It's during this time that Trevor asks Ava if she is still sore. Ava says that she is still sore, but she doesn't mind because this is what she signed up for. Ava then asks Trevor if he has noticed that there is someone in the pickup truck driving around the neighborhood because none of the neighbors, at least to her knowledge, are getting any repairs done or in need of any quotes. Trevor tells her not to worry about it before getting up to leave for work. In the next scene, we actually see Trevor and his co-workers in the office discussing the Renaissance Lofts that the company is planning to open in downtown Youngstown, Ohio. The goal is to develop affordable luxury apartments in the heart of the city. One of Trevor's co-workers is unsure about the lofts and believes that they will not be as affordable as everyone is making it seem. Trevor gets up, gives a speech. It's very dramatic. It's very long-winded. It fell flat to me, but it moved all of his co-workers, so hey, why not? After he gives his speech, we actually end up meeting Kelly, who ends up coming in late. But to be honest, based on the camera angle, based on the aesthetic, it pretty much let me know right then and there that Kelly, she either has something going on with Trevor, she has something going on with the boss, or she has something going on with another coworker. I've seen so many movies that at this point I can pretty much tell. Back at the house, we see Ava. She's in the bathroom and she reveals her stomach, and we actually see that she has a lot of bruises on her stomach. And I was a little concerned because it looks as if she may have got stabbed, shot, beat up. I didn't know what was going on. But it turns out that she's actually on IVF and she has to inject herself with a needle. I felt bad for her, but also supportive at the same time, if that makes sense, because I know there are a lot of women out there who struggle with, getting pregnant. They see a lot of their friends, their family, even some of the people they do not like constantly getting pregnant, constantly popping out babies, and they probably just wonder, why not me? Why can't I do it? And then, they go on this journey with IVF. And so I am in support of her. I do hope that, the women out there who are going through this process, I hope you are successful in that journey. I really, really do. It does look a little painful. It definitely looks like it's time consuming, but of course, sometimes you have to go through that to get to where you need to be. And so, salute to her. Salute to all the women out there in their journey. After she does the injection, she actually goes outside to get the mail. And when she goes outside to get the mail, we actually see the pickup truck that she was talking about a little bit earlier with Trevor. Later on that day, Trevor comes home from work to a home cooked meal. While they are eating, Ava brings up her friend Sharon and the fact that Sharon is not as supportive as she would like her to be in regards to her IVF journey. Trevor gives her words of encouragement and then they go into the bedroom. And I'm pretty sure you all know what they did once they got in there. Afterwards, Trevor goes to the club and he meets with Mook. And it turns out that Mook actually owns the club that they're in. Mook asked Trevor for $30,000, and I was just like, what? You're quite comfortable asking for that amount of money. Mook tells him that, he needs the money to renovate the club. Mook then tells him that not only will he repay him the $30,000 in 2 weeks, he will also give him an additional $20,000. And I was just like, what? Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that you will have $50,000 in the next 2 weeks, but you're asking for $30,000 right now? Why don't you just wait for 2 weeks to get the $50,000? That didn't make sense to me. I felt like that was a red flag. To me, that should have alerted Trevor immediately, but it did not. And he actually ends up agreeing to give him the $30,000. I don't understand why that wasn't a red flag to him, but it wasn't. And hey, Maybe didn't think as hard as I'm thinking right now, but definitely a poor decision. The movie then flashes back to 1 month earlier, where we see Trevor and Kelly. And Kelly actually walks up behind him and she has a ring, well, his ring. And she says something along the lines of, "You forgot your ring," or "Do not forget your ring." So, of course, we find out in this moment that Kelly and Trevor, they have something going on. They're having an affair. And they actually end up having sex in the kitchen with the ring on the side. So, Trevor is not really making the best decisions as we can see. He's cheating on his wife. He's just giving out $30,000. So, he's not really the best decision maker, but hey, if he likes it, I love it. The movie then flashes forward and we see Trevor inside of his office. He receives a call and we find out that he actually owes someone money. And they are getting a little impatient. Before he can get his thoughts together, his uncle, which I'm not really sure if this is his real uncle or if he just calls him Unc, but his uncle comes in and they start talking about the loss in the event that they're planning to give for the loss. They also have a conversation about Ava and the fact that Trevor does not approve of her IVF journey. And also, he's starting to notice, as far as Trevor, that she's becoming a little more needy. She's trying to figure out why he works so much. She needs a little more attention. But of course, to him, he's like, I need to work as hard as I can so I can make as much money so we can afford this house, afford this lifestyle. But she's not really understanding. And he feels like this may be linked to the IVF, to the point that he actually tells his uncle, or tells Unc, that he plans to ask her to stop doing the IVF the following month. His uncle pretty much tells him to give him some grace and that, she's been through a lot and that he pretty much owes it to her, which lets me know that there was probably some infidelity back in the day. She probably, well, not probably, she stuck through it. She continued being with him. And so the uncle feels like, you owe it to her to give her some attention at some time. After that, his uncle leaves and Trevor decides to reach out to Mook. The movie switches to Mook's point of view and we see him and his girlfriend at home chilling. Mook gets the call and notices that it's Trevor and he actually ignores it. He tells his girlfriend that he is not paying Trevor back and also tells her that he heard that there's money on Trevor's head. So he'll probably be dead before he can even think about coming for him. And in this scene, I'm not sure if it was just like overacting or what, but his girlfriend was quite concerned. She was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? You really want to do that? Huh?" And so I was like, "Dang, girl." I was like, "You must have heard some information about Trevor, or you must have seen something in person," because she was quite concerned. Mook, he really wasn't concerned because, like I said, he heard that there's money on his head. So in his mind, he feels like he's going to be taken out anyways, or he feels like he's going to be so nervous about, somebody coming at him that he won't even think about him. But I can tell you right now, this may be a little bit of a spoiler, but Mook, you definitely should be concerned. The movie then switches over to Ava's point of view, and we see her in the office, and she's looking at some documents that are associated with an estate, and then she glances over and she looks at the picture, and we see it as a woman. She then gets a call from a bank, and they basically tell her that the funds from her mom's estate, so it turns out that the lady in the picture was her mom, that it has been credited to her account, and that the last withdrawal will actually occur the following week. She ends the call, and she actually ends up taking some medication after that, and the medication, of course, is linked to the IVF. Trevor leaves work, and he goes to what I believe to be, it's either a parking garage or auto repair shop. And when he gets out the car, we actually see the same pickup truck that Ava saw earlier in the movie. And we also get to meet Manny. During this time, Trevor, he does his best to try to convince Manny to give him an extension, give him more time, but Manny is not having it. And Manny actually snatches him up. He's snatching him up and threatening him with a screwdriver, which I did laugh at that. I cannot laugh. But he tells him that, he better have the money soon or else. And of course, we all know what else means before letting him go. Trevor ends up leaving, getting in his car, and he ends up calling one of his friends. And he asks his friend, "Do you have this amount of money?" His friend is like, "No, I do not have it right now." And then Trevor says something along the line of, "But we have the best product in the city." So I'm going to assume that he's also doing drugs. They did not, well, not doing drugs, but selling drugs. They did not elaborate on this part, so I'm not really sure. But his friend said he doesn't really have the money right now. He may have the money in the future. And that, he would let him know what's going on, right? And so Trevor's like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm about to go meet up with Mook because he's ducking and dodging me. He's ignoring my calls. I might as well just go to the club, meet with them, and see what's up. So Trevor, he actually goes to the club and he confronts Mook. And during this conversation, Trevor actually pulls a gun out on Mook. And I was just thinking to myself, why didn't you pull the gun out on Manny? Like, you pulling guns out on Mook, he's not even confrontational. He's just like, hey, man, I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. And you pulling out a gun on him, Manny snatched you up and put a screwdriver to your neck. And you ain't put it. Okay, whatever. It's fine, right? And so, Mook, of course, he's nervous. He's afraid. He's scared. He has a gun on him. So he goes to the cash register, pulls the money out. Trevor looks at the money, and he quickly realizes that it's not the full amount. And so he gets more and more upset, right? And during this time, and this part threw me off, right? So Mook reaches for the gun. They kind of fight, struggle for the gun. The gun ends up going off. And then he ends up accidentally shooting Mook. And I was like, what? And so he ends up shooting Mook. And then after that, he ends up leaving. And I was just like, wait a minute. And I want to give a spoiler real quick. I know a lot of reviewers will probably wait to the end and kind of bring this to people's attention. But I think it's very important to note that this does not come back up in the movie. So there are no news clips. There's no social media posts. There's nobody having conversations about it. It ain't word on the street, I heard this or heard that. This never gets brought back up in the movie. And I found that to be odd because Mook got killed in his own club during the daytime. I'm pretty sure he had cameras in there, but this never gets brought back up. But I gotta remember, this is a Tubi movie, so I just had to live with it. So after all of that happens, Trevor actually goes home and he asks Ava, if she has made dinner. Ava tells him that, she didn't have time to make it, unfortunately, but that she ordered a pizza, and which Trevor is okay with. Ava goes outside. It is dark, I will give her that, but she sees this random car, and then she decides to duck behind something and hide as if, she's about to get snatched up and attacked. And I was like, what is going on? What is she doing? But it turns out it's just the pizza person. The pizza person gets out the car, walks up to her, gets the pizza. She goes inside, and in her mind, she believes that she's just going to be able to laugh it off with Trevor, like, ha, 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 guess what I did. But it turns out that, Trevor's actually upset. And the reason why he's upset is because he feels like she's becoming paranoid and delusional because of the IVF. He doesn't feel like she actually would act like this if she was on the IVF. And they actually get into a quick argument, which results in her basically telling him that he needs to sleep in another room. And during this conversation, we actually find out that this is the 1-year anniversary of her mother's death. And she's upset with him because he did not bring it up, and she believes that he forgot, in which he basically says, yes, I did forget, I do apologize. This basically calms the conversation down, and he tells her, I do apologize, I'm sorry, and you know what I'm going to do to make it up for you? I will run you a bath. I will put candles around the tub, just so, you can relax, get your thoughts together. And she's actually in agreement. So he does go upstairs and he runs her a bath. While Ava is in the tub, Trevor, he actually goes into the office and he finds those documents that she was looking for the estate. And he writes something down on a piece of paper. This will come up a little bit later. He also gets a text from Kelly asking them, when the next time they'll meet. Meanwhile, Ava, she's in the tub and she starts randomly ripping out pages from a book. And she actually starts burning the pages in the candle. Trevor smells this and he actually rushes upstairs, barges into the bedroom, and he stops her. The two of them, they get into an argument about, how much he works, how she's feeling, about feeling appreciated. And it's actually during this conversation that she brings up Kelly. So it's becoming very clear that she believes that, he has something going on with Kelly. Trevor, he shuts it down fairly quickly, and then he goes downstairs. The next day, Trevor's getting ready to go to work when he notices that Kelly is actually walking towards his house. And I was like, what? Trevor, he goes off on her for coming to his house while his wife is at home. Kelly, she gets upset, but I think she pretty much understands that she was out of bounds and she leaves. Ava, she's looking through the blinds, so she actually saw everything. After this, and this scene to me was strange, but he goes to the coffee shop and we actually see Ava friend Sharon walk in. And Trevor, he was in somewhat of a rush, and so he left fairly quickly. But when he left, he actually left his phone. And then Sharon, she picked up the phone, she looked through it really quickly, and then she just looked off into the distance. And I was like, what? Like, why would she do that? That didn't make any sense to me, but that's what she decided to do. In the next scene, we see Trevor. He actually goes to visit Kelly, and he tells her that, he actually wants to take a break from her so that he can focus on himself, he can focus on life, he can focus on work, and hopefully he can focus on his wife that he's cheating on. She asks him if they can have sex just one more time, and he says, you know what, hey, why not, right? And she tells him that she will plan something for them and let him know. Trevor finally gets to the office, and he receives an envelope. When he opens the envelope, he actually sees a bunch of pictures of him and Kelly out and about. And I'm going to assume that these photos were sent by the guy that he was talking to early in the movie, who was saying that, he owes money and time is running out. Back at home, Trevor, he's sitting down with Ava, and he actually officially invites her to the loft event. Ava asks him if Kelly will be there, and I was just like, well, of course she's going to be there. She's an employee there, and that's actually what he said as well. She works for the company, so of course she'll be there. Trevor then, he pretty much lays it out like, what, look, nothing has happened between Kelly and I, which of course we know that's not true. Nothing will ever happen between Kelly and I, which we know may not be true because, they're planning to have sex one more time. And that, there's nothing that she needs to worry about. He looks her directly in her eyes and lies. So, it's a shame, but, that's how it goes sometime in life. In the next scene, we see Trevor. He's back in his office, and he also receives a call from his uncle, who tells him that he's thinking about giving him a promotion. The scene then switches over to his uncle's point of view, and guess who we see, y'all? We see Kelly. And Kelly, she's upset because she thought, and these are her words, she says she thought that she was sleeping her way to the top. To the top. So she's upset because the uncle is getting ready to promote Trevor, even though she's been doing all of this hard work, if you know what I mean. Uncle pretty much tells her, look, shut up and do what you came over here to do. And that's essentially what she decided to do. Back in the office, Trevor, he actually gets a call from Manny, who tells him to come outside so that they can talk. Trevor meets with Manny, and Manny tells him that he's running out of time. And it's at this point that Trevor actually pulls a gun out on Manny. And this is when I started to think back about Mook, right? Why is no one talking about Mook? Why isn't anybody bringing up the fact that Mook got killed in this club? Like, is he that insignificant? Like, this man owns an entire club. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody would think about him, but hey. Let's just get back to the story, right? Manny doesn't take him seriously, and to be honest, I do not think that Trevor took himself seriously as well in that moment. And he actually ends up walking away, and Manny pretty much says, that's a dead man walking right there. I was like, that was a mistake, Trevor. And, with him being anxious and everything like that, he starts looking through a couple of papers, and he actually finds that paper that, he wrote that stuff down on when Ava was in the tub. And he ends up calling the number, and it turns out that it's actually a number to the bank. And when he calls the bank, he pretty much tries to convince them to let him take some of the money out from the estate. The person that he's talking to is like, hey, unfortunately, I cannot do that. You're not an authorized person on the account. I'm not allowed to. He tries to make up a lie and say, I'm actually trying to surprise my wife with the new house. I need this money for a down payment, which wouldn't really make sense because if she has the money in the account, you can simply just ask her. I know you want to surprise her, but you can simply just ask her for the funds. That's probably how the bank is looking at it. And they're pretty much saying, no, unfortunately, I cannot do that. You're not authorized. He gets upset, but he pretty much accepts the fee because there's nothing that he can do. And then after this, the person from the bank actually calls Ava and lets her know, like, hey, we actually received a call from your husband. He was trying to take the money out. And she's pissed, to say the least. Sharon ends up coming over and she tells Ava that she saw Trevor at the coffee shop and that he left his phone. Ava looks over at the phone. It doesn't look familiar to her. She's like, that can't be his phone. But of course, we know that is his phone. And I believe it's at this point that she realizes that he has a secret phone, which means that he probably has secret conversations. And there may be some things going on that she doesn't know about. Ava then says, you know what? I thought about it. I do not want to go to the loft event. In fact, I would prefer to hang out with you if you do not mind. Sharon was like, of course, I would love to hang out with you. I need to step out for a little bit, but I will come back and we can hang out. She said, cool, right? After this conversation, we actually see Ava. She's in the bathroom. And, she's looking at the pills. I think she's kind of reflecting on everything that has happened so far in the movie. And I also think she's considering the fact that her husband has a secret phone. And, she decides to actually toss the IVF pills in the toilet, right? And then she actually goes to the office where she confronts Kelly. And she reveals that, Kelly is messing with Trevor. And she says this information in front of Unc, right? And do you all know that Unc ended up getting upset at Kelly because she's messing with Trevor? And I was just thinking to myself, oh, gee, she stated that she's sleeping her way to the top. Why did you think that it would stop with you, buddy? It's steps to this. Yes, she tried you, but she was probably also trying him to try to step up the ladder to get to you. Right, but he gets upset, he's angry, he's mad, or whatever. And I was thinking to myself, okay, OG, I understand you're upset, but we don't want to do too much, brother. Because you are the boss, she is an employee. And also, you are a black man, she is a white woman. You don't want this to go to court, right? And so he ends up stepping away, pulls his phone out, and he actually calls Trevor. The scene then switches over to Trevor's point of view, where we see him walk into the car. He gets inside his car, and someone actually grabs him from the back seat, and they put what I believe to be chloroform over his mouth. And side note, normally in TV shows and movies, they take like maybe 10 to 20 seconds to fall out. Trevor fell out in about 4 seconds. Matter of fact, about 2 seconds. But hey, like I said, it's a movie. Time is money, and we're running out of time, right? And so then we actually flash back to the beginning of the movie. So he's inside of the box, and he actually sees the phone, right? The phone rings, and the person tells him that he needs to think about what he did. And then, y'all, the movie goes off. And I was like, what? Excuse me? That's the end? Oh my God. So I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. So I was like, maybe there's a part 2, maybe there's like a cut scene, like an end scene. That was the end of the movie. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I wasn't in agreement with that. The movie was already kind of rocky for me. Some of the scenes, they felt a little bit out of place. Some of the things were a little bit ridiculous. Shout out to Mook. I'm going to keep bringing up Mook since they decided not to bring him up. Oh my gosh. But what I will say about the movie, I felt like, as far as like camera work wise, it was shot beautifully. They definitely had some very nice expensive equipment. What else can I say? The acting, it was okay. I felt like the acting was good enough. So I'll give it a point for, the acting being good for the most part. I'll give it a point for the camera work. And also, I'll give it a point for the fact that it was based in Youngstown, Ohio, which is actually my hometown. That's where I'm from. So I would give it a 3 out of 10, but that was definitely a disappointing ending. It was so disappointing. How can you end a movie? You know what I think? I feel like this movie should have been split. It should have been made into a series because they didn't have enough time to really go into detail and explain everything. I mean, this movie was really only like an hour and 15 minutes long. And so I feel like if it was split into a series, they would have had time to really go into detail and explain everything, as opposed to like rushing everything and then ending it the way that they did. But hey, you know what? It's okay. It's all right. I'm not going to give up on Tubi. I am going to try to watch a couple of, other movies TV shows, and hopefully I'll come up with something better to review for you all. And speaking of reviews, I do plan on doing more reviews, TV shows, movies, documentaries. I may even do, a couple of reality TV shows. Hopefully, if it has some type of substance to it. And that's pretty much all I have for you all. I do appreciate you all watching, especially those who made it all the way to the end. I do ask that you all like the video. I do ask you all to subscribe. I do ask you all to leave a comment and pretty much let me know how you felt about the movie, how you felt about my review. You can also let me know, of course, what I can improve on. You can let me know what you would like to see. I really do appreciate it. You all have a great rest of your day. Take care.